Logan crashed through layers of corrugated metal and industrial debris, his body smashing through what had once been a ventilation shaft in the deep underhive of Metallica Secundus. When consciousness returned, it came with the assault of 1,000 alien sensations. The air was thick enough to chew, recycled oxygen mixed with promethium fumes, rust, and the collective exhalation of billions of souls packed into metal towers that scraped the very sky. What the hell? Where? That smell. That's not just industrial waste. That's death. Old death. Recent death. All of it mixed together like some kind of nightmare stew. He pushed himself up from the pool of stagnant water, his healing factor already sealing the worst of the mystical wounds from his passage through the warp. The scale of his surroundings defied comprehension. Gothic spires the size of mountains pierced a smoke-choked sky. Gargoyles the size of aircraft carriers glared down from impossible heights. Strange. What kind of hell did you send me to? His enhanced senses were screaming warnings. Every surface was coated in industrial grime decades thick. The metal itself was wrong, corroded by acids that shouldn't exist, twisted by heat that had long since cooled. And underneath it all, a constant, rhythmic pounding. Not machinery. Footsteps. Millions upon millions of footsteps, echoing through the metal canyons above. A servo skull drifted past, its mechanical eye glowing red in the perpetual twilight. From its vox grill came a tinny, endless chant. The Emperor protects. Work is prayer. Suffer not the mutant to live. The Emperor protects. Work is prayer. Logan watched it disappear into the gloom, its message echoing off the walls long after it had gone. Emperor? What kind of fascist setup is this? Days blurred into one another. Logan moved through the underhive like a ghost, staying to the deepest tunnels, the forgotten maintenance shafts. He learned to recognize the sound of approaching Archivist patrols, the synchronized march of carapace boots on metal grating. He learned to avoid the automated turrets that tracked movement in the main thoroughfares. He found water trickling from ruptured pipes, foul-tasting and chemical-laden. His healing factor neutralized the worst of the toxins, but it couldn't erase the taste of industrial runoff and human waste. He caught and ate the giant rats that infested the lower levels, their flesh bitter with accumulated pollutants. But it was the food dispensers that broke something inside him. They were everywhere in the worker habs, massive industrial machines that dispensed compressed bars of gray protein. Logan's first taste told him everything his enhanced senses could detect about its composition. The metallic tang of recycled iron, the particular decay signature of human bone meal, the faint sweet corruption of flesh that had been dead for weeks before processing. He vomited until his stomach was empty, then healed, and was hungry again. This is what they eat. This is what they feed their people. They're eating each other, and they know it. And they do it anyway because the alternative is starving. 3 weeks into his nightmare existence, Logan witnessed his first public execution. The worker had been caught questioning productivity quotas, a crime against the Emperor's will. The Archivist judge read the charges in a bored monotone, while a crowd of workers watched in enforced silence. The last beam took the man's head off cleanly. The body was dragged to a processing chute, destined for the same dispensers that would feed his former colleagues within the week. Logan stood in the crowd, just another face among thousands, and felt something fundamental break inside him. Not his bones, they were unbreakable. Not his body. That always endured. Something deeper. Some last vestige of hope that this place might make sense, might have some hidden decency beneath the horror. That night he found the mining recruitment center. The clerk was a servitor, what had once been human, now a lobotomized shell fitted with mechanical components. Its voice was a flat, electronic monotone. Worker designation required. Previous experience in excavation, demolition, or hazardous material extraction preferred but not mandatory. Mortality rates in deep mining operations currently at acceptable levels of 67% per standard year. Do you wish to proceed with application? Logan stared at the thing that had once been a person, now reduced to a living computer terminal. Yeah, I'll take the job. The mining complex of Sector 7 Gamma was a monument to industrial brutality. Massive conveyor belts carried raw ore up from tunnels that descended for miles into the planet's crust. The air was thick with particulate matter and the constant rumble of heavy machinery. Work shifts lasted 14 hours. Rest periods were 6. Medical care was limited to whatever prevented immediate death. Logan found himself assigned to the deep extraction crews, the tunnels too unstable for regular workers, too toxic for unprotected humans. His first shift supervisor was a man named Vex, a 30-year veteran whose lungs were black with mineral dust and whose hands shook from nerve damage caused by prolonged exposure to industrial chemicals. "You're either very stupid or very desperate," Vex said, looking Logan over. "Deep extraction has a 2-week survival rate. Most new workers last about 4 days before the tunnels claim them. Just point me at the work, old man. Fair enough. But when you're dying in a cave-in, don't say I didn't warn you." The work was exactly as brutal as advertised. Logan descended into tunnels barely wide enough for a man, their walls weeping acidic groundwater that ate through protective gear in hours. He worked alongside men whose life expectancy could be measured in months, who accepted industrial accidents as inevitable as sunrise. He watched Kellner take a faceful of toxic gas when his rebreather failed. The man died choking on his own dissolved lungs while Logan held him, pretending his own breathing apparatus was still functioning. He was there when Torino got caught in a tunnel collapse, his legs crushed to pulp by falling rock. Logan dug him out with his bare hands, listening to the man scream as his shattered bones ground against each other. Torino died en route to the surface, begging Logan to tell his wife he'd died quickly. And through it all, Logan ate the corpse starch rations. Because he had to. Because there was no alternative. Because survival meant compromising with a system that ground human beings into food and fed them to each other. 3 months in, he realized they were watching him. It started small. Administrative assistant Malari asking casual questions about his background during shift changes. Overseer Carrick making notes on his data slate whenever Logan worked through injuries that should have hospitalized him. Medical examinations that he deflected with increasingly creative excuses. Remarkable constitution, he overheard one of the administrators saying to another. 3 major accidents, 2 gas exposures, and a tunnel collapse. Not even a sick day. The deep extraction crews have never had productivity numbers like this. He's doing the work of 3 men. Flag his file. The Departamento Monitorum might be interested. Logan continued working, continued surviving, continued eating the rations that tasted of recycled humanity. He told himself it was just temporary, that he'd find a way out, that he'd find a way home. Months passed. The lies became harder to maintain. One evening, after a particularly brutal shift where he'd watched 2 more miners die in preventable accidents, Logan sat in his worker hab, staring at his reflection in a cracked mirror. Industrial grime coated his skin. His eyes were hollow, haunted. In his hands, he held a corpse starch ration, one of thousands he'd consumed. This is what I am now. This is what I choose to be. He took a bite without flinching. The taste no longer made him sick. He'd learned not to think about it, not to remember that it had once been someone's son, someone's father, someone's hope for tomorrow. The morning of the raid began like any other. Logan suited up in his mining gear, checked his equipment, and descended into the deep tunnels alongside Vex and the rest of his crew. The work was routine, clearing a new vein of ore, reinforcing tunnel supports, avoiding the worst of the gas pockets that could kill a man in seconds. Above them, far above in the upper levels of the hive, the first orc drop pods were screaming through the atmosphere. Logan had no idea that his months of careful anonymity were about to end. He had no idea that the surveillance reports had already been filed, that his termination order was already being processed. that Brother Sergeant Gideon was already suiting up for what the Administratum classified as a routine aberrant elimination. All Logan knew was the familiar weight of his mining tools, the taste of recycled air through his rebreather, and the grinding endless rhythm of industrial extraction. The calm before the storm. The last moments of the false peace he'd built from compromise and willful blindness. Far above, the first explosions began.